that has, as I mentioned, all the step-by-step instructions to do everything that I'm talking about today. So that those of you that want to follow along, we have the Go link there will take you to, you can download source code for the different stages or different lessons, as well as get a link directly to that little step-by-step guide on how to set this up. But what I wanted to talk about today was something that I actually, my first Android project a while ago. Let me back up a little bit and introduce myself. So my name is Justin Hartung. I'm actually a sales engineer on the cloud platform. I'm not an Android developer, so please forgive me. I know just enough to be dangerous and to crash Androids left and right. Eat up the battery and do things all the wrong ways. I do know a few different things about Android though, but I do know quite a bit about the cloud platform. And the cloud platform at Google is really what Google's been doing over the last 14 years. We've had to build things differently because when you have 1 billion people coming to your site every few seconds, you can't just buy off-the-shelf hardware and use software that's already out there. We've had to reinvent the wheel of how we do things at a massive scale. And something that I find interesting is just something as simple as App Engine, which is a platform that allows you to write your binary, Java, PHP, Go, Python, and just run it on Google App Engine, and it will scale for you automatically to millions of users. You don't have to worry about any of that servers or infrastructure. That's powering over 4 million applications today that are not Google properties. And in fact, half of all the people in the world that use the internet touch an App Engine application once a month, just to give you a perspective of scale. It's pretty massive infrastructure that serves these applications. And this is all built on the same infrastructure that Google has built up over the past 14 years. And actually, did you know that there's not just the 1 year, 15 today? Google has the same anniversary as this Google user group here, so I mean, that's a nice indication there. And what we're doing with the cloud platform is we're starting to take a look at how we do things and externalizing everything that we do internally so that you as developers can leverage it. So if I start getting salesy, just throw something at me so I don't, and I'll get back to actual code, which I know all of you care about. What was that?
We're finding things that are.
We got a fork on a knife left.
I got a missile launcher.
All right.
There you go. That's the foam.
So really, what this application overview, what are we doing? And what am I going to show you? Is there's two different components to this. There's the Android application that is using USB on the go, which allows your phone, which is normally a client or a device for USB communications, and your computer is normally the host that would then communicate and tell that phone what to do. We're kind of switching the role reversal and having your phone act as the host so that we can connect in a client or a device into your phone and control it. In this case, it happens to be the USB launcher. We are also going to be using cloud messaging, which is Google's infrastructure for sending notifications to the phone using very low power and doing that in an optimized way. And if you want to know more details about it, it actually uses something very similar to XMPP. A lot of the core functionality is the same. But rather than having a bunch of different XMPP connections and different polling and protocols, we've just kind of packaged that up into a common service so that we get a message and it figures out which application that message is supposed to go to, and it calls that out to that application. That way we can provide that as a common core service without burning up battery, and we can highly optimize that for Android and mobile use. The second part is we have an App Engine application. Now when you're using cloud messaging, every single device has a unique device ID. So if I'm a user that has 20 devices that I happen to bring with me, and I want to send a message to all that user's 20 devices, I actually have to send 20 different messages. And so what we're doing on App Engine is we have a small little component that allows a device to register saying, okay, I want to be part of this network and receive communications. And then on that App Engine application, you would just send notifications to those different devices. We're not going to do anything fancy. We are going to be using a data store, which is a NoSQL data store, and then sending those messages. And we're going to add an endpoint. An endpoint allows you to take your code and expose it as an API on the same infrastructure that Google uses. So this is actually really cool and profound. And the performance that's built into our systems is phenomenal. So for example, Google Maps was one of our most widely used APIs. And so we built an infrastructure for Google Maps API. And we started to leverage that same infrastructure for different APIs. Whereas previously, before that, we had a bunch of different siloed infrastructures that each team built for their APIs. And this has become very powerful. And like they have overhead of performance to put it through that infrastructure, something like 5 microseconds. So this is the type of performance optimizations they've done. I mean, how many measures latency in microseconds here? Anybody? And so what's nice is you can actually, with a few lines of code, take your method call in App Engine and expose it as an API. It will build the client libraries for you, handle the quota, the permissions, and the authentication all for you. And even using client libraries for pretty much any language you want to use. So I've split this up into really 3 different components. One is we just want to create that first project that's an Android connected application. That creates 2 projects in Eclipse. One is your App Engine application, and the other one is your Android application. It's great, you can just send messages and notifications to the Android phone, so that if your app's not online, you send a message and the application wakes up and says, oh, I've received this message, and displays it to the user. Second part is now adding the USB control into that application. And the third part is actually using those cloud endpoints, that messaging, to send commands to the device that then send them to the USB to launch the message. And I love it. We finally have pictures of our data centers online. If anyone's interested, you can see what a football field with this computer looks like. Cloud computing has 3 different layers. Software as a service, everyone uses Gmail. Platform as a service is App Engine. And we also have our virtual machines, which is infrastructure as a service. And what's nice is you can actually go in at any level and start to move up and down. So I told you about App Engine. It's great, you don't have to worry about any of the servers, but then if you want to do something that's not supported by App Engine, well, you're kind of SOL. Now you have infrastructure as a service, and so you can use virtual machines that just are running Linux and any packages you want to install that power App Engine. Or you can build your own environment. And actually, what we have now is I have the ability to give all of you $2,000 in credits if you want to start using the cloud platform. So you don't have to put that in your credit card and start consuming that money. And I'll have slides for that on the end on where you register for that and how you would sign up to get those credits. Now, a couple more things about App Engine. Whenever you're building, who here has Android applications deployed on the store? Okay, a few numbers. How many of them are connected to a server-side service? So, most of them, okay. Now, what happens when that service takes off, or when your application takes off and it's downloaded by 50 million people? It dies. It's the point where you become successful. It's like the time when you need that reliability and the high availability. So whenever you go and build an environment, you have all these different components. You have to have different agents for geographical failover. You have to have different cache in different geographies, so it's fast no matter where they are in the world. And so this is actually very painful to build and to maintain and to be robust. And App Engine actually has all the same components built in. In fact, it goes a step further. If your user's in Africa, it uses local data centers to serve the local data directly from them. And if your application is not actively running out in the data center in Africa, it uses Google private fiber network to get to the active data center that is serving the traffic. And what that means is that your users get incredibly fast access, low latency. You don't have to worry about things like the content delivery network. You don't have to worry about the high availability, the load balancing, the geographical failover. And in fact, every single write you do in App Engine is written simultaneously to at least 3 different data centers. If any of those data centers fails while you're doing that transaction, it fails over without any noticeable impact to the user. And that's all built into these managed services. So I talked, and of course, a little bit about endpoints here. Now this is my last slide I have of the whole evening, so yay, straight to code. But if you guys want to use those $2,000 in free credits, what you can do is you can go to the cloud.google.com starter pack, and you can enter the promo code of JHA-IN. There's other promo codes out there too. And I have some business cards. You can email me, or I'm sure you can get in touch with anyone on the group, and you can make sure to get that to you as well. One caveat is this is valid for 6 months. So when you do register for that account, you have 6 months to use it. So if you aren't thinking about using the cloud platform right now and a little bit later, or just sign up for your Gmail account and use that. Any questions so far about the slides, the cloud platform, the components?
I don't,